Topo Athletic is committed to lifelong health and better movement. Topo builds running shoes for those who get out there every day regardless of weather, speed, energy, or mood. Their distinctive fit and feel combines instinctive human movement with modern performance and lightweight comfort to help you keep going, keep trying, and keep moving. Discover the Topo difference and step into a run experience unlike any other.
These have been going seamlessly since probably the last couple weeks. Like, it's just like an immediate, like, both of us are on. We got our founder owner here, Jason, and we got a guest for today, Dianthe. So before I hand it over to Dianthe to talk about herself and we get rolling on the chat, I'm going to give her a hype up introduction because everybody is super humble about themselves and we know it. So Dianthe Skorko, please tell me I said that right.
You did, yes. Yeah,
good.
You did.
Good. I got your first name and your last name right the first time and you got my name right the first time, so I'm happy about that. Dianthe Skorko is a trail runner, an ultra runner, a sky runner, a bird chaser, and she has been on the trail since 1993. Dianthe is a multi-time finisher of the Broken Arrow Sky Race, including the 2023 Triple Crown, consisting of over 45 miles and 18,000 feet of vert. In 2024, Dianthe is gearing up for some massive goals, and you're going to find her training for those goals in the Santa Cruz Mountains as always. Welcome to the show, Dianthe. So happy to have you.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
So before we get going on the big questions, we have to ask you the biggest question of all. This will determine whether I continue leading this conversation or Jason continues leading this conversation. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
This is a really important question. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
I knew this was going to happen, and I'm just going to tell you that it's a big fat no for me.
All yours, Jason. We're so good as friends. We have such a good connection.
Sorry, I'm disappointing you already.
Ohm is always saying pineapple on pizza, and he's heard this a million times, and I will take this to my grave. I don't think anybody actually likes pineapple on pizza, because if you ask them about pineapple on pizza, they always say, yeah, with ham, with bacon, with jalapeno. It's never just pineapple on pizza. So that tells me you actually don't like pineapple on pizza.
That's a very that's a big swing to the extreme, because I still like it. I just like it part of supplementing something else.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think if you have the Canadian bacon or whatever with the pineapple, then it's salting it to some degree, so it's changing it, which would make it acceptable.
Yeah, it's the sweet and savory for me. Like it's the offset for like the spiciness of the jalapenos that makes it like a perfect combination, I think.
Would you?
Okay, you have me at jalapenos, so yes,
I agree. Put pineapple on a burger?
No, gosh, no.
No. Maybe that's the question we need to start asking too. That's more contentious than people think.
Yeah, and that's a no for me too. Like,
that's a no.
Not.
That's a definite no for me. But I wanted to jump right into your journey and just ask you, I guess the first question we always ask everybody is, how did you get started?
Yeah, so it's sort of I think I said in the write-up that I always knew I was going to be a runner. And I have no background in running. I have no family members. I have no friends. Well, I do now, but back when I was younger, looking at trails, I didn't know anyone who was a runner. And so the reason I got started was I was living in Belmont on the peninsula, and I had to catch a flight to Los Angeles because I had just moved and I was still fancied myself a Los Angeles girl. So I went to LA like every 2 months, and I wanted to get my dog a little time on the trail. And I was really only hiking at that point. And so I still wanted to make sure I got the same amount of miles for him. And I thought, well, I mean, I could run. It's a mile to this little lake where he swims, and then it's a mile back up. And so I ran it. But at that time, I didn't know it was a mile because my brain didn't think that way anymore. It was just, you go down this way, swim, and come back up. And then I went to LA, and then I came back and I thought, wow, I ran that. Let's try it again. Let's try it again. And then, this was before watches. This was you know, the early 90s, I had some company, and I don't remember their name, had developed these little round things that are attached to your shoes. And then you could upload it on your phone using almost like a fax connection. Oh, I'm not kidding. And this is how I would figure out how many miles I was doing. And it was somehow connected with Nike. And so Nike would give you like hats if you hit certain miles.
Wow.
And I could remember it was red with like a white swirl, but not a Nike swoosh. But so that's how long ago this was. And that's how I started learning, like, oh, miles count, but nothing about vert or anything like that.
I feel like we need to explain what a fax machine is, because I think only people in our age group really understand those things.
True that.
I had a fax machine, but I mean, I was working like a government job, and they still had some tech. And I remember having to fax a form, and I was like, I haven't done this in like 15 years. I probably faxed like 3 times a month.
Oh, I faxed way more than that in my life.
I still get phone calls on my cell phone, on my mobile phone, because somebody's trying to fax something. So I'll get that squeal, like, you know, in my voicemails, and I'm like, who's faxing things these days? Like, are you kidding?
That's hilarious. Yeah, I haven't heard that sound in a long time. I don't miss it.
I'll send the telemarketers your way then.
Okay, yeah, please.
It's wild. It makes me think, like, imagine if you had like Strava back in the day, and they were just like, you finished a run, and then they like faxed you that you did X number of miles, and then
Right.
and then like you get like a hat or something for doing a certain number of miles. Or your Strava groups were like, to be in this Strava group, you have to do 5 payments of $19.95, have dial-up internet, have a fax machine.
Every 20-year-old listening to Google what's a
Sorry, Jason?
I said every 20-year-old who's listening to this is Googling what's a fax machine right now.
Exactly. I wish I remembered the name of that company.
Oh man, that's so wild.
Yeah.
Did like 1 mile out and back run. Was it immediately like you knew you wanted to run on a trail since a young age, and then you did this, and maybe you couldn't conceptualize that that's what trail running was at the moment because you'd just been hiking and you were on the trails? But was there like an immediate like, I want to keep doing this, and just like you kept coming back?
Yeah, I think I have you know, there's some degree of a little of OCD thinking, right? So it was, you know, if I did it once, I have to do it all the time, right? And so I would try to beat my time, but still only doing this, what I now know is a mile in and a mile out on this one section. But yeah, it was immediate. And then I started to, you know, run from my house to the trail. I used to drive to the trail. Then I would run from my house to the trail, and I figured out that was 5 miles. And then I'd go the longer distance into the park, and then I learned the whole park. So it was pretty immediate. I was, but I didn't know it was called trail running. I just called it running. And I never saw another runner ever. I saw a couple mountain bikers, which became sort of like my morning tribe because we would be out really early. And if they didn't see me on a day, the next day they'd be very like, where were you? Are you okay? So we exchanged phone numbers, so that if someone wasn't on the trail, we could, you know, check in on each other, which was nice.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, we have a comment from Phaedra. Please tell me I'm saying that right. You can correct me in the chat. Trail running is something I really want to try. We definitely think you should. Like, we can all agree that trail running has profoundly changed our lives in so many ways and helped us create these connections, like me to Jason, me to you, all together right now. And it's just highly recommend. It's a very special community, and there's something about just feeling the dirt underneath your feet. So definitely go and give it a shot. The community will welcome you with arms.
It's a different world out there, because you don't worry about paces so much, right? Because 1 mile downhill, you're just running an 8-minute mile. Then it's flat, you're running a 10-minute mile. Then it's uphill, and it's 30 minutes. You just really concern yourself so much with that concept of pace. And you get to experience the outdoors, and it's amazing. And Phaedra, you can go to Apache Wash. I know Phaedra's in the Phoenix area, and so Apache Wash is a really good spot for you because it's relatively flat, and will here at the beginning of October, so be on the lookout for that because one will be in the Phoenix area.
Yeah, definitely. We're excited about that as well. So going back to your story, Dianthe, one of the things that, and this will be in the story write-up as well, that was discussed was that when you did start running the trails, you were also coming off a decade of heroin addiction. And that's something that I really wanted to dive into because that is a very profound part of your story. So how much of that, I guess, plays into like your trail running journey? And I guess I'll just open it up to you to talk about that a little bit because there's really no right way for me to ask that question.
Yeah, right. What's interesting is it's so funny. I don't, my immediate friends know about that portion of me, but the most of my world does not. So it's really, even to say this here is like, wow, that's out there.
Oh, did we lose her?
Sorry. So I believe that the running filled that adrenaline that I needed to have filled because I wasn't a drinker, and so I didn't drink after that. I will say the first 2 or 3 years of running, I was still a smoker. I smoked cigarettes. I would finish a run and go home and have a cigarette. So I was still coming off of addictions. Yeah, you're smiling. I can tell you some really ridiculous things I used to do as a smoker and a runner. But yeah, I was just chasing that adrenaline in any way that I could. And it definitely filled that void for a long time. And many doctors in my early days used to all say, oh, sure, of course, that's why you're a runner.
Yeah, for me to jump in on that one, but I think one of the things that we have found is those who have an addiction of whatever sort, drug, alcohol, the adrenaline rush, right, the chase, to end up turning to endurance sports because it's the healthy way, right, of getting that adrenaline rush and that kick. Like I had an alcohol problem when I was first getting started in these sports as well. And, one day it was, you know what, I might actually enjoy this more if I'm not doing it with a hangover. So let's see how that works. And as it turned out, it was much better without a hangover, and I actually enjoyed it more and allowed me to quit drinking. And so, some people say you just transfer the addiction from alcohol or drugs or whatever it might be to the endurance sports. And that's okay, I guess, as long as it doesn't become then detrimental on the other end. It's something that you still have to try to control.
I do think that there is a fundamental difference, and I have this conversation a lot because people always bring that up, and I'm like, so one is instant gratification. Oh, trail running and ultra running, there's a delayed sense of gratification. You don't just walk up to the course and they say, here's your medal. Right. Like you go and like earn it. You have to go out on the trails. You have to go through pain to get to the reward versus the instant gratification of me, even for my own story, like just going to the bottle and just drinking and getting that immediate high. But I agree with you with that, Jason. Like I can tell you a lot of days where I like puked out the night before, was blacked out, and then woke up the next morning hungover and went for a 10-mile long run in the mountains. So definitely better without.
It's sort of like redemption, though, when you've done that, right? You can say I was hungover and I still killed 10 miles. And so it evens out the guilt of I did that bad thing last night, but balanced it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely correct in that scenario. I feel better about myself because I did this, and absolving the issue of having done what I feel guilty of the night before in that situation. It's very good. Never thought of it that way.
Yeah, I feel like I did the same thing with both alcohol and relationship with food. Like I've earned the right to do this because I did X workout or I did this, and that's how it was for alcohol. I remember my favorite line being, I'll just sweat it all out in my workout. And just, yeah, I mean, well, I'm 2.5 years sober now almost, and I have no regrets about that decision. But as we all know, it's an everyday battle. It's definitely battle, but it's always good to talk to other people who've gone through similar struggles.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I do talk about it is because there's somebody who's just getting started in endurance sports and is like, I need to kick this habit of drinking or drugs or whatever, and it's comfortable for them to know that there are other people out here who have also kicked those types of habits to the curb for now.
Absolutely. So going ahead from that topic, I wanted to dive into your first trail race. So you started trail running in 1993, and I think your first trail race was
1996.
Was it? It was something the Redwoods. I'm trying to remember.
So it was called Race Through the Redwoods, and it's here in the Santa Cruz Mountains in Felton, California, and it takes place in a park called Henry Cowell. And I remember very clearly that I drove to the starting line by myself. So, 5 a.m., get to the race. This was my second race. This was my first trail race. I'd done some beta breaker, which is a different beast. But I parked my car at a grocery store parking lot. And I remember thinking, will I get a ticket? Where am I? Those are redwood trees. I don't think I'd seen a redwood tree yet. So I was like, that's a redwood tree. And so I get to the starting line and off I go. And I remember thinking it's a 6-mile course. And I don't remember the vert. Now that I run in Henry Cowell like 5 days a week, I know the vert. So it's not a lot of vert in Henry Cowell. But I remember really enjoying it. And I also remember one thing that sticks very clearly in my head is the last mile. It's single track, like super single track. And there was a man that I wanted to pass, and I couldn't pass him. He wouldn't let me. And I couldn't go to the left or right because it's like tree stumps and bushes. And I remember being so annoyed at this man. And as we crossed the finish line, he turned to say, "Hey, good race." And I was so angry at him because I was like, you know what? I didn't say anything, but I was thinking, you know what? I could have just been flying, and I don't know what that feels like now because you were in my way. I remember, I wish I knew his name because he probably runs the trails still. Who knows? But it's the reason I moved to the Santa Cruz Mountains because it was the first time I really experienced the redwoods. I shopped in that grocery store this morning. I became absolutely hooked, and I vowed that someday I would move to the Santa Cruz Mountains. I didn't know how. I didn't know how I was going to pull it off because we're kind of not super convenient for Silicon Valley work. The commute is 45 minutes to an hour. If it's raining, even longer because trees are falling down or there's a mudslide, or in the summertime, there's all these men, Caltrain are fixing the roads. So there's road closures. So it's never an easy drive when you commute.
What do you think prevented you from telling the guy in front of you, like, I like the pass, I need the pass? Do you think it was your first time trail racing and you didn't know what it was, or was it a female male thing?
It was because I was a female and I didn't think I had the right. Absolutely, 1,000%. I remember, I still feel that way in my head when I think of that moment. It was because I was a female.
Yeah.
Interesting. And today, you would be like, get out of my way, dude?
Now I would say on your left.
Yeah.
First I clear my throat to let them know I'm coming. And then I say, coming up behind you. I'll say, coming up. Because if you say on your left, they jump to the left.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to say, coming up behind you.
Yep.
And they turn, and then I'm like, yeah, now I have no problem. I pass people all the time.
I love that a lot. And that actually brings me to a question that we talked about in the green room. Like, you have it's been almost 30 years you've been on the trails now. So you have a unique perspective in the sense of like being a female out on the trails. And you've probably seen a shift in certain things. There's probably certain things where like this needs to change. And maybe this is something you've even thought about a lot, but like, what do you think has changed for the better? What do you think still needs to change and get better? And how is it then versus now?
So that's a good question. So I ran a few of the beta breakers and then the race through the redwoods. I think I did that 3 years in a row. And then I didn't race for a long time because I don't like the way it makes me feel anxiety, like that race, like that's not pleasant for me. but I did delve into some van racing on roads, the Hood to Coast series specifically, with a group of friends who were runners. They'd run Hood to Coast many years prior to my joining their group, and I ran with them for 4 years. And this was in the very early 2000s, like 2009, 10, 11, 12. I think those are the years I ran. And this could also just be attributed to road running versus trail running. But the road running was still very masculine. It was very, and I'll also add that Hood to Coast takes place in Oregon. And Oregon is a very, very competitive running field. And it was very masculine with people telling me, you know, if a male passed me, I was roadkill. Or, you know, if I passed a male, then I chicked them, which is like some offensive thing. And, oh, bro, I got chicked 5 times. Like, okay, that's bad. I'm faster than you. Maybe I'm 22 or I'm 26 and you're like 50. Whatever the reasons are, maybe I'm just faster. Like, but there was this mindset that was really, it didn't make me feel good about myself, because I wasn't running to compete. I was running because it felt good. And it allowed me to be outside in nature. And so I after doing the Hood to Coast for those many years, I backed away and sort of disappeared again. If you look at my ultra sign up, it's not impressive, because I just checked out of running, or of races. I mean, you know, still running every day.
You know, I started doing these sports in 2007, and it's been a number of years since I heard the phrase chipped. And I just realized in my head, like, how ridiculous that phrase is, right? There's a million reasons why you got passed by anybody. And to demean it, you know, in a sense like, oh, I got passed by a female, is absurd.
Right.
Utterly absurd. Like, nobody taught, like, Courtney DeWalter's winning these events overall, right? Is anybody on the course being like, you got chicked by Courtney DeWalter?
I hope not.
Either. It's crazy. I guess that kind of does either. I don't know if it's because I haven't been involved in triathlon as much as I used to, and more trail runner today. So I don't know if it's the community and the sport itself in not hearing that phrase, but used to hear it all the time in triathlon, especially on the bike.
Yeah, it's a strange, I don't hear it anymore, but I remember, yeah, it's offensive.
It is.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Just like I started running 5 years ago, and even like 3 years ago in trail running, I'd never heard anything like that. So it's just wild even hearing like a phrase like that in any of the sports in general. Like I know there's definitely challenges. There are challenges that females go through, but like hearing something so direct like that is just, it still boggles my mind. Like, it's just wild.
It was crazy, man. Like back then, you know, I think I did my first Ironman in 2011. And so for about 6 or 7 years straight there, I was racing Ironman before I really got into trail running. And that's, I mean, it was commonplace. It was a phrase that was commonplace in conversations, which is nuts. I do want to take the tenseness off of this conversation.
Yeah.
Dianthe, I didn't mean to. I meant to ask this question earlier, and I just totally forgot it. So when you registered for that first race in 1996, did you have to fax in your registration form?
oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah. I want to know.
No, I had to mail it in. I'm sure I had to mail it in. Oh, actually, did I fax it? I think I actually remember mailing it, because I remember writing on the form. Yeah, and I don't even know how I heard about it.
I did Oklahoma a number of years ago, and the race director, she had a Facebook page for it, no website, right? And the Facebook page, and it clearly said, there is no website. Do not try to do this through any platform. I don't have technology. You have to mail in your registration and a check to get it, right? It was nuts, you know, and the only way I knew that I was in the event was because the check got cashed.
That's hilarious. So now that you mentioned it, I probably sent a check as well. Because I doubt I just wrote a credit card number on there. I mean, maybe, doubt it.
think, and since we're gonna dive into Broken Arrow next, it's making me think like I maybe this was something that happened with you, Dianthe, because Broken Arrow is such a very popular race, but my internet crashed when I was trying to register for that race, like sign up. I had to keep clicking. I wasn't sure if I got in. I had to make sure my credit card was good to go. So many people were trying to sign up for that. Like, can you imagine the 90s variation of that? Like everybody showing up to like Palisades Tahoe with like their checks.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Or maybe it's like whoever got their postmark on the envelope first or something, right? That's who gets to go into the race first. Yeah. Yeah, Broken Arrow, the registration this year for Broken Arrow was nerve-wracking. I kept pushing. At first I was in a queue, and then my other friends, we were all texting, and one says, "Oh, I'm in. I've registered." And I'm like, "What? How? I've been here sooner than you." And it was really stressful. And then finally, yeah, I mean, it sold out quickly. I think the Triple Crown sold out like what, 5 minutes?
5 minutes. Yeah. I think I forget which one it was. I think the VK sold out super fast too. The only one that didn't sell out was the Iron Mountain Triple, for obvious reasons.
Right. I agree for obvious reasons.
It's crazy. So, again, I'm going to date myself. I was racing Ironman in 2011 and 12. And back then, there are two big popular races, Ironman Arizona and Ironman Florida, which are late end of the year races that take place in November in nicer, warmer climates, right? And there were only two ways to get in. You either volunteered or you were sitting at your laptop when registration opened. And the way I did it was I had opened up an old registration page, looked at all the questions they had, typed it all out on a Word doc so I could just copy paste so that I could get in before everybody else, right? Nowadays, that doesn't happen. Like I believe there's still open slots for Ironman Arizona and Florida today, like, which was never a thing. So to hear a race selling out in 5 minutes is like, that's unheard of these days.
It felt like buying tickets at Ticketmaster. You refresh, and then you're like, oh, they're all sold out. That's what it felt like. And I'll say, since I know we're going to talk about Broken Arrow, I think rightly so that they sell out fast. Broken Arrow, they know exactly what they're doing. I love the way they treat people. I love the races. I think that they are fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan.
I loved it. I walked in from like the moment I walked in there, they kept drilling in. It doesn't matter if you're first or last, you're a rock star. That's like their trademark. And when we did the VK, I remember looking around. I think that was the first time I'd met you too. When we did the VK, I looked around and just like all the different like people, shapes and sizes. Like there were people who were going to hike the VK, and it's just very all inclusive. And I love that about Broken Arrow, and just made it such an amazing weekend. But yeah, I mean, let's dive right into Broken Arrow. That was like, you've done a few of them, but as a Californian, like for you, like this snow year, I mean, to sum it up, like there was a 200-mile race, the Tahoe 200, that moved their race to July because of the snow. And then there was Broken Arrow, who was like, yeah, more European. And sending us pictures of the course, and they're like, oh, it's going to be absolutely great. And I'm sitting there like, this will be interesting. But
I actually for a moment thought maybe I would just not do it. And then I was hoping that my friends who go with me just didn't want to do it. And two of them did drop out. But one of them, who you met, my friend Amy, she stayed the course. And it was, I kind of hoped that maybe it would get canceled, or they're going to show us a different course. And look, there's no snow. I kept checking the pages every day, like, take us to the desert if you have to.
Oh man. And so, I mean, I'm glad that you did, because we would have never met. One of the things I want to mention about me and Dianthe is that was, of course, where we met at the VK, and we finished all three races together. Like, you know how hard that is to like end up finishing 3 different races together like that? And it wasn't that we were running, like, I know we did the 46K on the second day, pretty much all of it together.
So I'm trying to remember that, actually. I feel like
the third day
I came and found you. You were walking a friend in who wasn't feeling well, and I came right past you.
then I ran in with you after that on the 46K. The VK I think we did together, and I know we did the entire third day together.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's kind of all a hazy at this point, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, because the 46K is 2 loops. Yeah. You're right. So we found each other at the end of the first loop on the
Yeah.
46K.
Understandably hazy, because I remember after the 46K we were both tuckered out. Like I was like, "Can I take a shower?" And you're like, "Yeah," but in a conversation mood. You were just knocked out on the floor, I think.
So I will say this, and Jason, you were asking like if I felt comfortable telling that runner like, "Can I pass you?" I'm an introvert, and our friend here, I'm thinking is an extrovert.
I am a total introvert.
Oh, is that so funny? Because you were talking and talking and talking, and at one point I said, "I'm gonna need some quiet time."
It's funny that it's all come full circle now. It's funny that somebody told me, a total introvert, that I'm an extroverted introvert. Like I can talk when it's like something I'm really interested in, but after the end of the day, I got to recharge my battery. I'm like, you know.
Yeah, but I remember where we were. We were going up that steep hill and had the snow stairs, and that's when I said, "I'm gonna need some quiet time now." We stayed together,
Yeah.
but I was just don't talk.
That was an understandably so, because we had done that hill before, and I was like, "Yep, I know what's coming. We have got to focus on the climb," and there were steep climbs.
Yeah, there's
Dianthe, if we ever find ourselves in a race together, I'm glad you've practiced telling Ohm to shut up, because I'm an extrovert. I'm talking. So if we ever find ourselves on a course together, I know you've got it in you to just be like, "Dude, shut up." And I
do have it in me.
So this is what's cool about this whole thing. I assumed you guys knew each other going into Broken Arrow because of the posts and seeing the comments and stuff. I was like, oh, Ohm must have known her from whenever. So this is really interesting to me that you guys had no idea who the other person was until that weekend of racing. It just goes to show you again, sort of the whole misery loves company thing, right? If you're going through shit together, it creates this bond that makes it, very difficult to break because of that, and you grow inherently together with each other through those processes. So it's pretty neat to learn. I had no idea.
Especially if part of that is glissading a ton. There was a lot of glissading on the course, which for those of you who don't know, believe it or not, there's people who don't know. Glissading.
I had never heard of it. I actually had to keep having someone say the word so I could remember how to say it.
Glissading is like a fancy term for literally just sliding on your butt in the snow. That's literally what it is. And I mean, there were some sections on there. Whoever designed this course had designed Spartans before. So there was, I think you recall this, Dianthe, but there was a section on the course where you go down this hill and you're like totally glissading in the snow. You turn the corner and they make you climb back up.
Yeah.
It was
yeah, we did that 3 times, didn't we?
Yeah, it was like, what was the point of that?
Yeah, it was cruel because you're so gleeful. You're feeling like a child and you're sliding on your butt and you're just smiling and then you round this corner and everyone's laughing because everyone's talking and laughing because that's the most fun I've ever had on snow. Yep. And you round a corner and you're like, oh, it was insane. And then you're like, okay, just trudge on up. Yep.
Did you have any favorite, like, it's probably all a haze now, but did you have any favorite moments in Broken Arrow, or would you say it was like that glissading part?
So the glissading, I enjoyed the glissading, having never glissaded before. I didn't know to lift my calves. So I was just legs straight riding down in the snow. And so that was on the 46K, right? So probably the second loop, I learned that you need to raise your calves because I had some absurd snow burn on my calves and it was really painful. What was my favorite part? So I like hills, and that's the truth. And so even though it was hard and we were sledging in snow, I love climbing. And so anytime we have an opportunity to climb, I love that. But I think also going through Siberia, which is the windiest point of the race, and it's the coldest, and the wind was blowing so hard that it sounded like you were just walking alongside the ocean with crashing waves. It was,
Yeah.
and you're holding your hat and you're tucked in, and I enjoyed that because that's not something I experience often.
No, and so much so that they had to change the third day from the 23K into 2 loops of the 11K, if I recall, and they even delayed the start an hour because the wind was too fierce up there on the third day, and they had to make a call on it. So it was just, yeah, it did sound like ocean waves. And when we were walking down from the VK, you were telling me all about it, and then we actually did it, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's so windy up here. It's like
Yeah,
it was
crazy.
one of my favorite memories is just like getting up to the top of those climbs, I love those climbs too. And shout out to those volunteers for creating like snow steps. That was incredible. Like they were just out there loop to loop. They're like, we're sorry if they're melted by the second time. I'm like, no, thank you so much for being out here. Like, this is amazing. But my favorite thing was like going on to top of the hills, and there's one where you go up the top of a couple climbs and you get to an aid station, and I recall just getting like cold Coke at every single one. The refreshing cold fizzy like Coca-Cola, and like there's one that had like Parmesan, like warm Parmesan potatoes, and I was just at aid station, just amazing.
Yeah. And I'll throw this out there too, and this is not because I'm like brand whoring, but they had My Spring Energy at all of the aid stations. That is my go-to nutrition. I'm a huge fan of My Spring Energy. So I always really appreciate when they're on the trails.
What's your favorite flavor?
So I really like the applesauce,
Yeah.
but there's this other one. It's red and it's kind of creamy. I think it's peanut butter based. Rush. I think it's called Rush.
Oh, Power Rush.
Yeah, that's the one. That's my favorite.
Yeah. I love the apple pie one, but I lived in Arizona for a number of years, and it is great in Arizona because it gets warm. So it's actually like a warm apple pie when you actually use it. It's awesome.
Nice.
Remember that time I have awesome sauce, because that's the one you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Those,
Yeah.
they're like 180 calories, so they're nice. I like the Canterbury ones too. Those are good.
Canterbury's my 30-minute into the start.
So we're all big fans. I love it.
Either the awesome sauce or oh goodness me, the one with the hemp. I forget whichever. There's one in a white package and one in a black package.
I don't
and it's
buy those as often. Yeah.
Because they have like 180 to 200 calories, and so I don't have to carry as many. I could just take one an hour-ish, give or take. So
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, springs are amazing.
if you're listening, why don't you sponsor us?
Yeah. Sponsor,
So I'll take a side note. So I work in venture capital, and I've reached out to the founder 2 or 3 times because I personally want to get them funded.
Yeah,
I'm trying because they need to exist in this world. They need to be able to be in more stores. They need to grow their manufacturing. I've been trying for years. It's not an easy, CPG is not an easy investment.
No.
Consumer packaged goods is not an easy investment. But yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I thought they sent out emails. This was probably 12, 18 months ago, looking for funding of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They did so recently too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thought so.
Yep. If anyone wants to invest in a really great company, that would be one.
There you go. So what was your, I guess the last question I have to ask about Broken Arrow was like, you were actually insanely, like you say you're not like, I think I remember the last line, not to spoil too much of the writing, was, I guess I'm competitive after all. You actually did really well, like in your age group at the Broken Arrow Triple, and you like totally crushed it. So what was that like? And also, what was the feeling of just like ringing that bell 3 times, like at the end of the triple?
So ringing the bell 3 times is pretty cool. You were with me when I did it. There's video of it. So I think when I had my last birthday, I entered into a different age group on the Broken Arrow. So I knew last year that I was going to be in the new age group. And so I knew I would do well based on the statistics of, how fewer runners in my age group that is. And yeah, a little competitive. There's a gal that you met her. Her name is Vicky. We met her when we were running, and she is in my age group. And I wanted to be in her time. She's just a monster, and she's fast.
Oh yeah.
And so I wasn't able to keep up with her, but I've always sort of, since I heard about the Triple Crown, I've sort of been following her times to see like where I would stand if I ran side by side with her. We've done a couple training runs together when Broken Arrow does their training runs, Mount Diablo or other places. I see her and we run together. So yeah, I have to work a little harder. See, I'm a little competitive. I feel at this age I get to be now.
Hard, not competitive.
Yeah, that's definitely you, Jason. Like you see like somebody who's like slightly ahead of you, like all gas, no brakes.
That's my mantra. And sometimes I end up finishing the race, and sometimes I'm laying on the side of the road. It happens.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I say that mantra works for me like half the time, and then the other half of the time it's just because I've had bad food or something. It's just the all gas part.
Gross.
I mean, Dianthe unfortunately knows. Bro,
Maybe when I was asking for quiet time, that's what I was asking for.
with that being said, I think farts is the best place to end this fireside. But Dianthe, thank you so much for being on the show. Before we jump into the fireside chat, where can people find you and where can they follow your journey as you move along? And I'll let you announce this, but it's actually on your Instagram as well, but your next goal in 2024 as well.
Yeah, so my next goal for 2024 is the Canyons Endurance 100 miler in Auburn, Tahoe to Auburn. I don't know what the course is going to look like this year because they had to change it last year. This year? The last one they had, this year. They had to change it because of the snow. That same Broken Arrow snow that we actually ran through, they changed it. So I don't know what the course is going to be like. It might start in Tahoe, end in Tahoe, I don't know. So that's next on my docket. Some crazy person suggesting I sign up for a 200 miler, but I don't know what that's going to look like. That would be you, where can you find me? My Instagram is Dianthe Runs Trail, and I'm on Strava. You can find me on Strava. I like to. I have a lot of people on Strava. I like to follow other runners, and I get to know people through Strava, and then I meet them on the trail, and I'll say, "Oh my gosh, I know who you are," and then suddenly we're friends. So that happens a lot.
And oh gosh, what was I going to say? Wow, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, man, it'll come to me at some point. Oh, right. The most important thing, and I almost forget it. Everybody stay tuned on runtrymag.com. There's a 2-part story coming out for Dianthe about her journey. Some of the stuff you've heard on this chat, some of the stuff that hasn't been, there's some stuff in there that hasn't been said on the chat, and just stay tuned for it. First part is, I think we haven't scheduled yet, have we, Jason?
I think it's the first week of October.
First week of October, yeah. So stay tuned in the first week of October for the first part of that. But yeah, I'll defer it over to Jason now for the rapid fire.
And these are going to be, I think they're all food questions related, so this will be fun.
Okay.
Oreos. When you are looking at Oreos, are you going old school style or are you a double stuff Oreo fan?
Original.
Yes. Licorice. Yay or nay?
Yes.
Red or black?
Black.
Nice. That you're one of the very few people who has it's anise, right? That's the flavor, anise. Who
Yeah.
Black.
Yeah. In fact, I like the salted. There's some that come from Europe that's slightly salted. Really good. Yeah. And Finland, their black licorice is salted.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can. If ever we meet, I will bring you some.
Fantastic. Candy corn. Is it a real candy or is it just earwax covered in sugar?
It's real candy.
Oh no!
It's real candy. My grandmother always had dishes of candy corn in October, and she didn't really have any other candy, and so it was really what we had to chew on. it was our sweet treat, even though we were sort of grimacing at the texture. We acknowledged that it was in fact sugar, and so we would eat it.
I will say, Jason, I will say that the people who have liked candy corn, it's always tied to some nostalgic memory. Like even our last guest was like, "Oh, my grandmother used to have them all the time." I don't think there's anybody who actually eats candy corn because they like it.
What about the, because we're coming up on Halloween, the pumpkin-shaped candy corn? Not so much?
Yeah, same thing. It was the same. It's the same texture, just a different shape.
Peeps? Are Peeps a real candy, or are they just marshmallow covered in dust?
Okay, so let me talk about Peeps.
Oh, yeah.
So this is how I eat Peeps. You put a row of Peeps on a dish, and you put it in your microwave for 60 seconds. And watch the Peeps, and they're going to go like this. They're going to expand, and their eyes get really buggy. And then when you take them out, they deflate. And what you have is crystallized, crunchy sugar that is to die for.
The best answer to any question I've ever asked. And actually, the heels, we had another guest who told us that they do the microwave thing, but they put toothpicks in the beaks, so they joust as they expand, and their little beaks like joust.
Oh, I have to try that. I'm going to try that now. That's really great.
This is not something that we've asked before, but I was on a podcast yesterday, and it was about the top 10 candies. So if you had to rank your top 3 candies, what would your top 3 choices be?
So I don't really eat a lot of candy. So I would say black licorice would be in the top 3. So black licorice, gummy bears or gummy worms. And then I think, what are those things called? Those little jelly bellies. I like
Nice.
those.
Jelly bellies.
Yeah, it's chocolate at all. Are you a fan of chocolate or no?
I mean, no, I don't seek it out. It's like, no, it's not a big deal for me, chocolate.
Peanut butter or nut butter? Are you creamy or are you crunchy?
Crunchy.
Yes. Is a hot dog a sandwich or is a hot dog a taco?
Oh, it's a sandwich.
Why? Why do you say that?
So I feel like I've had this conversation before with my grandmother, who has been dead many, many years. But when she was a child, they called hamburgers sandwiches.
Yes.
So by default, a hot dog must be a sandwich too.
Gotcha. My rationale is that because the bread is thick and a taco is, real thin, that's what makes it a sandwich, the thicker bread.
Okay, I like that.
Red velvet cake, is it a real flavor or is it just chocolate cake in red food dye?
I think it's just red dye.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What is your favorite type of cake?
I don't eat a lot of cake, but I would say carrot cake.
Yeah.
Because it's somewhat healthy. Yeah.
Oh, we're all carrot cake people here. I love it.
If you have the choice and you're gonna be eating carrot cake, do you like it with or without raisins?
Probably without.
Yeah, I like it with raisins. Yeah, that's a little bit of extra sweetness.
Yeah, true. It's not bad. I don't mind the raisins, but I typically would go without. Yeah.
What about pie? Are you a fan of pie?
I don't eat a lot of pie.
You had to pick one.
I had to
You're
pick
at
one.
the
Probably.
Station, and it's all they have.
Oh,
What do you?
it's all they have. I would like peach. I think peach cobbler.
Nice. What's your go-to recovery food? Just finished a hard race or a hard run?
I'm a big fan of anything with cheese. So like cheese quesadillas or cheese pizza, like super just.
Oh, dude.
A burrito with just cheese. Like, yeah, just, yeah.
Well, I know that. I remember your pizza delivery episode after the 46K.
That's right.
Like,
That's right.
looking at the delivery fee, like, let's just walk over there. Or he walked over there.
If you're a fan of cheese, what's your favorite cheese?
I like extra sharp cheddar.
Nice. All right, so you're getting ready to race. What's your pre-race meal? Not the morning of, the night before.
Oh, I don't go all crazy with like carbs. I don't know, like salmon and some potatoes or something. I tend to eat pretty healthy. I definitely never want to be like not happy the next morning with, I ate too much food. This is going to be a problem,
We've all been there.
Yeah.
2 more questions and we'll wrap it up.
Mhm.
Favorite flavor of ice cream?
Mint chip.
Yes!
There is a second though. There's a brand called McConnell's ice cream, and they're based out of Santa Barbara. They have a salted caramel that's pretty insane. But so I'll usually do a scoop of salted caramel and a scoop of mint chip in the same bowl.
So it looks like you and I are going to have to get a regular cheese pie and dinner with a carrot cake topped with mint chip ice cream.
Perfect. That's a date. Yes.
Then the last question, brownies. Are you going to take the edge piece or are you going to center cut on the brownie?
Oh, I'll take the edge always.
Dianthe, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. October 8th, I just remembered, is when the part 1 will be coming out of Dianthe's story. And then October 22nd will be part 2 of her story. So make sure you check that out on runtrimag.com.
Perfect. Thank you. It was really a pleasure to speak with you today.
Have a great night.
Thanks. Dianthe.
Bye.